Hey, before we get started, I just want you to know, we spoiled Deadpool and Wolverine in this podcast. We had to comfortably talk about everything going on with Marvel. So if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't advise listening to this podcast yet. Just wanted to hop in here and tell you, enjoy the show. We're in movie mode. Once again, it's another double. It's a double header.
It's a new word.
Yeah. It's another double header from us. Ryan Snelling, Austin Burke. How are you, sir?
First take pros, Ryan. We do this in first takes. The one take, it doesn't matter. Hey, look, man, I just had a lot of family members over at my house, so I'm partially mentally drained, but I'm also, for some reason, still excited to talk Marvel. I've had numerous videos, numerous podcasts, and a couple of discussions with family members, and I'm not burnt out. So what time period, what dimension are we in right now, Ryan? This is weird. I don't like this. It's strange.
It overall feels good. It was fun to pay attention to the Comic-Con panels over the weekend. I worked through all of it, so whenever I could go to the bathroom and sneak a look at my phone, check X, I was hyped through that. And then I think when I got off work, you were coming home from your wedding, so I wasn't quite sure if you were engaged or not, but I sent you a similar picture to the one that you have behind you right now. And we've spoken very briefly and in a very limited fashion about everything that unfolded over the weekend. So guys, this is like our first real dive. Just a yes or no question to tease what we're going to talk about. Do you have any idea what I think about any of this?
I have an inkling. So I guess yes, but I don't know exactly where this conversation is going to go. So I'm kind of excited about that. As you can tell, I'm in a good place with Marvel right now, but I am questioning some of the decision making here. So it's excitement with a lot of hesitancy on my part. So I'm curious to see how you feel.
I feel like I know where you're headed more than you feel like you know where I'm headed.
Fair?
Safe to say. Guys, get excited. You have no idea where this is going. Episode 2 of this podcast was a state of Marvel and Star Wars discussion. So I kind of just want to do a re-up on that. So you guys saw the title. We're going to talk about the state of Marvel post San Diego Comic-Con and post Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't have a lot to say about Comic-Con other than that, but I'm going to ask you at the very end to talk to me about some other things that interested you. But
sure,
this is going to be a meaty episode for sure. So guys, sit back, relax, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're an audio listener. If you're an audio listener, I just said that. Oh my gosh. 2 takes now.
It's late, man.
2 takes now.
It's late.
All right. Hold on.
Get your drink in, son.
If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the podcast because you have no idea when you're going to need us on the road. And vice versa. If you listen to us on the pod, find us on YouTube. We're trying to grow this channel. Live streams coming soon.
Yeah.
Special guest appearance from somebody still pending, but it's okay.
He's coming, Ryan. I'm telling you. It could be a year from now. It could be a week from now, but he's coming. All right. It's happening.
I've waited 10 years to speak to that man. I can wait a little bit longer. No big deal. It's all good. So here's where I want to start. You're obviously super hyped about Deadpool and Wolverine still.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it for the second time a few hours ago. So I want to start here because I didn't realize it going in, but seeing Deadpool and Wolverine after the Comic-Con announcement, it's even more fascinating. So let me walk you through my weekend. I want to hear about your weekend, and then I want to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine briefly. when I say that this is all I've been able to think about, I mean that this is all I've been able to think about.
Okay.
It's occupied all of my mind space, and the only thing I've been able to do is play College Football 25 because I can do that mindlessly. I've hacked the game. I just throw Hail Marys, score every touchdown. It's just something I can do when I turn my brain off.
Like Pat Mahomes.
Exactly. Sure. I haven't been able to think about anything else. So going into Deadpool and Wolverine changed me, and I moved in a slightly different direction than when I was going to than I was originally going. So before the movie, and this is just a tease because I want to talk about Deadpool Wolverine first, but before going into the movie, I was more cynical. And now that I've left the movie, I find it more sensible what they're doing. Not only that, but I think in general, Deadpool and Wolverine works even more than I thought. So, because we forgot to mention the cinematography and the editing and the soundtrack on the review, look, these things are not great. I kind of assumed, and maybe this was wrong of me. It could be wrong of me. I assumed the Marvel engine, it just warrants a different type of conversation. I'll be honest. When I watch a Marvel movie, I've stopped thinking about the cinematography and the editing because I just think it all sucks. So it's like, okay, it sucks, but let's still talk about the million other things that there are to talk about. Like, it just warrants a different type of conversation because Marvel movies are their own thing. And I just thought everybody kind of understood that. But I don't know, have you changed how you feel about this movie for better or worse? Has it been on? I'm assuming it's been on your mind because you've been talking about it so much.
I've been forced to talk about it so much, but I've also been excited to talk about it so much. And that's, I don't know if that's elevating my thoughts on the film. And I also, for some reason, I just kind of feel obligated to defend it on Twitter right now, just because it's everyone on Twitter, not everyone, a group of people, a select group of people on Twitter are just still hammering this movie when literally outside of that bubble, it's just consensus awesome, like consensus entertaining, consensus smash hit. And so I think that obligation that I feel to just kind of keep praising this thing, like celebrating the box office and celebrating the Easter eggs. And then last night, my cousin Joe and I on Pop X Cast had just a very lengthy, geeky discussion about all of the integral cool elements that, you know, we grew up with, more he than I, reading in the comic books, man. And that's the cool thing about a movie like this. Like, you can talk about I'm glad you saw that comment too, by the way, the cinematography and the editing and the direction style and all of that stuff. And that's fine. But it's the little goodies that they're given all these people who grew up with these heroes, and then those just payoff moments after payoff moments with our two integral characters all throughout the movie, man, that makes this experience what it is. And so thinking about that and celebrating these moments, it's made me even more positive towards the movie, man. I mean, this is moving into not top 3, but one of my favorite movies of the year because it's just so awesome that we were able to get something like this. And so, you know, drowning out the rest of the noise, solely this has got me so excited for the MCU right now, maybe not going forward, but right now. And so all of this Comic-Con stuff, it's just kind of been the cherry on top, to be honest with you.
I want to make sure the audience understands that I have a lot of mixed emotions. So I can almost guarantee you, no matter where you fall on this topic, I think you're going to be represented. Mm-hmm. If you haven't already seen, I guarantee this podcast is at least an hour and a half long, guys. I don't know it right this second. but I'm assuming it is because we're going to be thorough because I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of thoughts. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that you will be heard. I guarantee it. And I want this conversation to be as objective as possible because it's just everything. I want it to represent everything I've been going through, and I don't want it to be an easy conversation. I think that I've been weary because right now it reminds me a lot of where we've been with Star Wars over the years. And long story short, guys, I was a big Disney Star Wars defender in the early days. I was the kind of guy that used to point fingers at the hateful fans, quote unquote, and call them toxic. And I was the guy that said nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. And I did that for a long time. I truly felt that way, but it wasn't until recently where I started walking back on that and seeing a lot of the real issues with what's going on and started to validate all these people that I used to criticize. And I wouldn't say that I'd completely 180'd because I still like some Disney Star Wars and certain aspects of it. And I just feel like I don't fall on either side completely. But I am a big critic of everything Disney Star Wars. So Marvel fandom finds itself in a similar position where I think the fandom is starting to turn on each other. And especially Deadpool and Wolverine caused it before the Downey news did. Like, this has been a weird weekend. Like, I want to make sure, like, there's a lot to love, and I'm glad you're happy. But when you zoom out, it's been a weird weekend for the fandom. And it was supposed to be a good week for everybody. So that's why, again, I want to comb through this, and I want to make sure that I just don't jump to pointing fingers at another side. I want to make sure we go through this with a fine-tooth comb. But to speak on Deadpool and Wolverine, I had just as much fun, if not more fun, the second time around. And I feel like now that I have the context of the Secret Wars and the Doomsday and the Downey, Deadpool and Wolverine clearly illustrates the direction they're going in. This term anchor being, it's kind of everything. I mean, so for those of you who haven't been on Twitter in the last 24 hours, everybody's trying to figure out who the anchor being is on the secret timeline. There's a fan theory that I want to pull up and talk to you about later, but just this conversation going on right now, it's just been a lot. It's a lot, man. Have you seen all of this stuff? Have you seen everybody arguing about anchor beings and all that good stuff on the sacred timeline? And just out of curiosity, if you could apply a percentage with what you've seen, how many are the haters? How many are the lovers?
I think the lovers far outweigh the haters if you get off of Twitter. Because Twitter, to me, has always been the loud minority as opposed to the more quiet and we don't care as much as you care, so we're not going to shout about it majority. Okay. That's just the way it is. If you look at and as much as I, question something like a cinema score, if you look at cinema score, IMDb, audience Rotten Tomatoes, and the box office, which again is not often telling of a quality film, but it is telling of a movie that people want to see. And people clearly want to go see this movie. It is not one they're hate watching. If you look at the scores across the board, it's not one they're hate watching. This is one that people are excited to see. Most of them are enjoying it, but even if they don't enjoy it, there are still little moments sprinkled in for most of the Marvel fans. And so that is, I believe, prominent throughout most of the fandom. Then you have the little bubble on social media that they have access to get their very interesting opinions out there online, thanks to social media and the internet. So thank you, internet. And so this is just a space where everyone can claw at each other and argue and scream and do this and do that. But there's no implications in real life because they're behind a profile picture. Even if you know their name, you know where they live. There's no implications. unless they say something that's completely drastic. And so that is causing these discussions and these arguments. And I'm okay with the hate for Deadpool and Wolverine. I completely see some of the criticisms with the story complaints. And if you're not a big fan of cameos, okay. If you're not a big fan of the multiverse, this is a lot of multiverse, even though this movie wouldn't exist without the multiverse. Right. What I don't like is the condescending nature of some of these takes. It's the people saying, well, these guys are idiots for liking this movie. What did somebody say? Piggies eating the greasy slop of the MCU. You all are just a bunch of piggies. And it's just like, you're outnumbered, dude. You're outnumbered. So you're whining about it online that people are more interested in this type of thing. And that's also what I'm inevitably going to apply to Robert Downey Jr. As much as I question the decision itself, and we'll talk about that, people complaining that Robert Downey just won an Oscar. Why are you going back to this, man? Do you really need that money? No, he doesn't need the money. The money's great. He's an actor. He's going to take the money. That's awesome. When they cheered for him in that Hall H, the screams that I heard from the crowd, you don't get that from being in a limited series on HBO. You don't even get that for an Oscar. Okay? Oscar's great. It's an amazing accolade. But that moment where the fans screaming for him, you can't tell me Robert Downey Jr. was up on that stage upset. That's what I heard the whole time, man. He just looks like he doesn't want to be there. This man would not have been there if he didn't want to be there. He has enough money to be anywhere in the world right now. Okay? He just won an Oscar. He can be in any movie he wants to be in. Literally. He chose to be there. And that roar from the fans and that response from Avengers Endgame, and that's probably something he's hoping to get again, that's one of one. That's one of one. You can be snarky and act like you don't care about that thing, and it's not art. It's a roller coaster. Okay, whatever. That is something you don't get from any other role. And that's, I think, the special thing about this universe. And so I'm completely fine with Robert Downey Jr. making this decision. Whether I think it's going to work or not, it's a different story. But to say he doesn't want to be there, to say he's miserable up on that stage, yeah, first of all, he's playing a villain. He's probably trying to give a villainous look on his face. Second of all, the guy has all the money in the world. More money's great, but he could have been anywhere else doing anything he wanted to be doing. So, yeah, he wanted to be there. Stop saying he looks miserable. Whatever. Sorry. Tangent.
I mostly agree with you. First of all, you're 100% right about the fact that nobody can make Robert Downey Jr. do anything. So he obviously said yes. So so if people are arguing that point, I'm going to assume that at least some people are arguing the fact that maybe they're questioning that he's doing it for the wrong reasons. So maybe they are aware that he's doing it because he wants to, but they think he wants to because of the money, not because he wants to out of the care of the fans and the care of the work. Yeah, so it's possible that there are people that, I'm not saying I agree, but I'm just saying people might, without even saying it, be turning on Downey a little bit because maybe it feels a little disingenuous after pretending, their perspective, pretending to care about the legacy of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I'm going to say, after all the sifting through, I guess we're already kind of here. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room, and then we'll talk about Thunderbolts, Cap. Let's just go on and have this conversation right here, right now.
Let's do it.
So here's the one thing that I don't care for in this. I would have liked a new actor to play Doctor Doom so that a new actor had the chance to put a spin on this character, but it also would kind of free up, in my mind, the things that they are able to do with Doctor Doom from here on out. Obviously, we can expand on this, and it's why we're going to be here for an hour and a half. But what comes to mind is, is Downey going to play Doctor Doom until the end of the multiverse saga? is he always going to play Doctor Doom for the next 20 years? Because he's a Fantastic Four villain, and Fantastic Four takes place in another universe. Like, but isn't the point that he would lose in Secret Wars? So are we going to, again, recap? It's like, those are all the questions I'm thinking about. But ultimately, everything else that I've arrived at, whether I like it or not, is that this makes sense in a comic book movie universe. I don't know if this would feel better under different circumstances. Does this exact same announcement feel better if we weren't split on the MCU already? Does this exact same announcement feel better if it happened 3 years ago? Does this exact same announcement feel better if it happens 2 years from now? I don't know. But what's weird is that it kind of shows the divide in fandom, because everything you spoke to with Deadpool and Wolverine, you have the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time in theaters right now, and it's a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. This might be the most hated casting decision in the history of the MCU. And in my opinion, they're telling the same story, and they're on an arc together. It's really weird. So you kind of pointed out Twitter's the minority. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine today with my mother and my sister. They love the movie.
Oh, okay.
They don't have a care in the world. Like, they're excited to see Downey. I went to work last night, overheard some people talking about this casting, loved it. They said the MCU sucks now. And that was like high school. It was like a group of high school kids. Like people that may or may not have, I guess they did grow up with Downey in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I've had my feelers out to kind of, but I can't come to any real conclusions other than we're just split on all this stuff. So I don't really know where to go. Take the ball. What do you get from that?
Well, I think what you said about kind of the general consensus, I've been of the mindset that most general, and this is just from personal experience, right? And then some things that I've seen outside of Twitter, on Instagram mostly. You know, that was the most, I believe, one of the most viewed Instagram videos of all time. That Comic-Con announcement that they officially posted. I last time I looked, it was 245 million views. 245 million views. And the like count was insane. And the comments that I saw from mutuals, and then scrolled down, you got celebrities, and then scrolled down, I'm a Steelers fan, Cam Hayward in the comments section, future Hall of Famer, talking about how excited he is for this. The general consensus, to me, seems to be that people are hyped that he's back. And just looking through I follow 1,000 people on Instagram, just looking through my stories. OMG, this is awesome. This is crazy. Can't believe he's back. I got 3 separate text messages that night when it happened from 3 people who, they're one of those people I'm talking about when I say they see 5 to 6 movies a year, half of them superhero movies. They all 3 were excited. And so the general consensus I'm getting is that people are excited about this decision. But when you get into the people that have been so locked into this space, and not just the MCU, but the movie space in general, and how the MCU has been so up and down, just a roller coaster ride. As of late, we're dead, we're back, we're dead, we're back, we're dead, we're back. And now we're back with Deadpool and Wolverine and X-Men 97. But those are the people that seem to be completely divided and split in half. And so I'm trying to get a feel for if that anger is going to all be calmed down by a story that works, a movie that's successful, an idea that comes to life in the best way, or if these people are so vehemently against what the MCU is doing right now that they're going to let that anger kind of impact their thoughts on whatever we get out of this, whether it be a cameo at the end of Fantastic Four or Downey Jr. plays Doctor Doom for 20 more years, which I don't think is going to be the case, because I believe after Secret Wars, he will be done as Doom. And whether we have a new variant of Doom that we are stuck with until the end of time, that'll be their opportunity to introduce a new actor or not. This version of Doom is gone after Secret Wars. That's what I believe. You start the universe with Downey, you end the universe with Downey. And what I mean by that is after Secret Wars, the multiverse goes away. We're locked in with Fantastic Four on their world. Maybe they're in our world now. And that's when you have them as kind of the basis of this soft reboot MCU. Have a new X-Men cast. Bring in, the guy that we saw make a brief cameo as Wolverine. That's when you kind of do this soft reboot of the MCU. And thus Downey starts it, ends it. If that's the plan, awesome. Amazing. But I just keep saying this to myself. Marvel, you've got some splaining to do. Is this such a desperate decision, such a massive pivot to tell the world to forget about Kang? The old WWE move. We're going to make you forget about this. This never happened. This 3-year setup, Quantumania, doesn't matter. Let's bring back Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. That'll make them forget. And it will.
Yeah.
But was it such a quick pivot that they don't necessarily have all this planned out? Or do they genuinely have something here that takes these stories from the comics, implements them, and, is Jonathan Majors, is that whole debacle going to tarnish this entire next 2 Avenger experience that we're going to get? What do you think?
So, Kang, I think, is the one thing I can't be objective on. So I've already hopped off the Kang train.
I did too, a long time ago.
Like, them pivoting away from Kang, that's the kind of stuff that we have been talking about. That's what we want studios to do. Mm-hmm. When something doesn't work, they need to decide to just pivot away from it, listen to the fans or not. Not exactly the same, because, his Jonathan Majors' PR issues kind of forced their hand. But at the same time, Quantumania is maybe my least favorite Marvel movie. It's 100% my least favorite theatrical experience. I watched that movie. I hated it. And I saw it. I didn't
hate it that much.
I hated it. I think it's a legitimately terribly made film. Wow. And I saw it with my mother and my sister, the same 2 people that I saw Deadpool and Wolverine. And they are, especially my mom, doesn't know what she's watching. She has fun. She laughs. She knows the actors. She's seen several Marvel movies, enjoys them as a normie would. A woman who's 60, who's taken her son to see comic book movies for 20 years. She gets it enough to just enjoy it. But it's not like in Deadpool and Wolverine when they pick up the sling ring. It's not like she immediately is like, oh, that's Doctor Strange. Like, once she sees the sparkling circle, then it's that kind of thing.
That's my mom. Yeah.
So my sister, who is a Downey stan, hated. I didn't think she could hate a Marvel movie because I thought she was a normie. But then again, I need to give her credit because she takes after her brother. But she was almost pissed at me because I bought her that ticket to see Quantumania.
Wow.
Yeah, she did. I don't think I've ever sat through a movie with her where she hated it and wanted to leave. So all that to say, I could give a shit that they aren't bringing Kang back. I don't need them to ever mention that character again. I haven't seen Loki season 2. So out of sight, out of mind, I haven't given it another thought since leaving Quantumania. Not once. So the people that are like, oh, I want to see Kang, excited about Kang, I can't get on board with that. Sorry. Like, I'm just not passionate about it. So this is the kind of thing, this pivot away, and that's the kind of stuff that I wish more studios did. So we're going to go all over the place.
Go ahead.
Can I tell
Please
you something?
Respond.
Yeah.
Real quick about Loki season 2 that I think is is interesting that you haven't seen it. Not that this was their intention, okay? But if you think about it, after watching Loki season 2, which I loved, it's an awesome season of television, maybe better than season 1.
That's good.
It actually kind of puts a bow on the Kang storyline, Brian. And that was not what they were planning at the time. They were going to open it back up.
Yeah.
But that last episode, Owen Wilson's character says some things that, if you place it in this current context, puts a bow on it. And so taking that ending and actually saying that was the ending, yes, it negates everything that happened in Quantumania, 100%. But it actually kind of works with where they're going. And so, not that these were their intentions, it ended up working out for the best, because I'm with you. I loved Loki season 2. I loved it for different reasons, not because of Kang necessarily. Whatever you say about Majors, a lot of them warranted. I thought his performance in Loki season 2 was very good. That is something that I am just completely ready to move on from now.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even thinking about Kang while it was happening, to be honest with you. I'm ready to move on. And I've always said that Doctor Doom and really just the Fantastic Four introduction of a lot of these Galactus, Silver Surfer, all of those things, I've always said that's the next move after Thanos. And when they decided to do Kang, I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. Maybe we can get there. But now we're getting there a lot quicker.
That's what's so funny is we've been theorizing about Doctor Doom since probably before Endgame, but I think it really picked up during Wakanda Forever. People thought there was going to be a cameo in the post-credit scenes, or that he was going to be one of the representatives at like some of the where all the world leaders meet. United Nations. He was going to be one of the representatives in some of those scenes, or a post. Like, so we thought that there was going to be a Doom presence then. So it's not like this is out of complete left field. Do you think this exact news would have gone over better though with the fandom if it was delivered in another way? I mean, I know that we can talk hypotheticals, but I think the best question I can ask you, do you think Kevin Feige should have at least in a few words acknowledged the concern from the fans? Just to say, look, we're listening to you, we're hearing you. You don't have to say anything else, but we're listening to you. We're focused on story. We are moving forward with Marvel Studios with the intent of delivering for you every story, writing it, and not producing it until it is 100% ready to be cooked. Like, just to put a bow on this whole panel. Do you think they should have done that at all? Because Kevin Feige's a smart dude. No matter what, he's a smart fucking dude.
Brilliant.
I don't know why he doesn't just do something along those lines. I know he's in promo mode. He's been selling a movie, selling the hell out of this movie. He's been selling the hell out of these projects all this past weekend. But I feel like if there was just something from his mouth to our ears along those lines, we would feel better about everything, not just this particular thing. Because otherwise, this coupled with the Russos' stunt casting, desperate decisions, I mean, it's not like I don't get the narrative here. So what's your take on delivering this message in a different package?
I don't necessarily think that was a requirement from him, because everything that we got kind of told us that that's what they're doing. Everything that was revealed to us the moment that Avengers 5 title was changed said, oh, okay, they're going in a different direction.
But do you see why that's exactly what people are cynical about? It's because it seems, I know what you're saying. It's like, again, going back to my point, we wish studios pivoted like this, but they could have done the same exact thing, but with Justin Theroux as Doctor Doom. You know what I mean? That's my personal fan cast. That's me personally. Nobody else. Justin Theroux's the shit. But anyway, he's the best eyebrows in the business. Not to quote Guardians, but anyway, that's all I'm saying. It's kind of like I understand what you're saying, and please continue. But it's almost like that's why I want that extra asterisk, that extra footnote to make sure everybody understands that we should trust them with this.
That's fair. I do, from certain fans' perspective, and I don't even know if I fully trust them at this point, just because they've let me down a little bit recently. But I'm the same guy saying when Avengers Endgame come out, I said it's amazing how many hits this studio has had leading up to Endgame, and how little misses they've had. How many hits, how little misses. Because if you look at any other studio, A24, one of my favorite studios in the business, they have a lot of hits. They have a lot of misses, to be honest with you. A lot of movies I don't like from A24. Marvel's batting average, especially when Endgame came out, was insane. Say what you will about the studio, say what you will about the company. We have never seen a studio do what they did with that many movies that at least did their job. Okay? Maybe weren't great, did their job. And then how few movies were bad. And I only look at 2 or 3 before Endgame and say those could be legitimately bad movies. There's an argument to be made for those, okay? So after Endgame, they built that trust. That trust was instilled into me, and I said, I'm going to let you all do whatever you want. You make as many movies, as many TV shows as you want. They've done that. They've lost trust a little bit. But I believe what Feige hopes the fans feel right now is there is still a trust there, even with all the changes and all the delays and all the movies and all the TV shows that have been big misses. There's still a trust there that what they're doing and the way that they're pivoting is the right decision. And I believe Feige knows that, and he's hoping. He's riding the PR high as well, right? He doesn't want to bring the energy down by saying, we know we've been terrible. Or we know we've been ridiculously inconsistent. We're going to change that. He's keeping that hope alive, keeping the spirits up while making the adjustments, while making the changes, and trusting that we believe that they're pivoting for the right reasons. I just think that's their intentions. Whether I'm completely on board with that, I mostly am, but I believe that's his intentions by not necessarily bringing that up. Because even then, Deadpool and Wolverine is also a mechanism to bring that up, because they brought that up multiple times during that movie. And so maybe Feige's thinking, everybody's going to see that movie this weekend. That's our way of telling them that we've kind of effed up.
Letting them go on with the Marvel jokes, I think it's been pretty consistent since Endgame, and then there's an eye roll kind of moment, and can we stop with the multiverse, that kind of stuff. So I haven't spoiled the movie. Sorry if you haven't seen it, but those are just some jokes that are thrown out.
Some jokes.
Here's what I think ultimately, and I'm just guessing because Feige did not clarify he didn't have a State of the Union address. As much as I wished he did. I think that he has to make more movies, more projects to, through story, get himself out of this. So that's what I think he's doing. I think there are things that he's been wanting to build towards this entire time. I think the moment that came up with the idea to include Toby and Andrew in No Way Home, he knew they were going to be a part of Secret Wars. The moment that he brought Hugh Jackman back for Deadpool and Wolverine, they're dancing around it. They're coming back. I've always thought that. Kevin Feige has always had that plan post Endgame. And that's what I want. I think that's what we all want. But at the same time, he can't, the way that he threw Jonathan Majors aside, the way that he threw Kang aside, he can't do that for an entire saga. So I think he's going to use the movies to write himself out of this. Now, this isn't the most original idea. A lot of people are theorizing this, and you've kind of already mentioned it.
Mhm.
But I think this is going to pull the pin on 616 as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to just start existing in the Fantastic Four universe. And we're going to start existing with the mutants wherever they are, however they want to introduce them. I just think we have to get there. We have to outlast. So, honestly, this fandom bickering back and forth, it's not going to stop. It's probably going to get worse.
It will.
I am under the impression that we could potentially still get one or maybe even two bad projects, because I don't think we're completely removed from, when they were green lighting things under different leadership. And I just don't think we've moved past that yet. What's that show? Ironheart. I mean, Ironheart, that show came from when all of these Disney Plus shows were in production, and it has been on the back burner for years now. It's been made. So there's going to be a time when we just see this series, and it's going to be a product of the MCU from 3 or 4 years ago, which wasn't a good one. And we're going to get upset about it. Potentially. So I just don't know how to feel about that. I can't get excited about that. Do you think I give a shit about Armor Wars? Do you think I give a shit about...
Bring that up.
I mean, I'm so sick of hearing about it. Do not make Armor Wars. I don't care what you change with the story. I don't care if you pivot to Disney Plus or back to the movies. Do not make Armor Wars. No one needs it. Please stop it. That's just cut the cord on Armor Wars, for the love of God. But I mean, we've kind of already talked about this with Agatha. I'm not going to get excited about that show. So I just can't. And I understand that. So that's why I'm just the MCU. I'm only a movie girly right now. I'm done. I can't do the whole thing. So I kind of lost my point. But I'm just vamping at this point. I'm just ranting. But this is what it's been like to live in my head the past 48 hours. It goes back to the fact that I'm just scared as to what it means post Secret Wars, which I'm getting way too ahead of myself. But
sure.
All right, let me read this theory out loud to you. So I read this. I was at dinner with my family and saw this tweet, and I will give him props. I usually don't remember to come up with things like this on the spot during the show. Did I really just not save it for some reason? You got to be shitting me.
I'm going to be so upset. That was such a good setup too, right? Hyping it up.
I don't think I saved it. You got to be shitting me.
Where's the crescendo?
Oh. Okay. Here it is in basic terms. So Tony Stark died in Endgame. We find out that Tony Stark is the anchor being to the sacred timeline. So, oh shit! Spoiler territory for Deadpool and Wolverine. Oh God, guys, I haven't spoiled it yet, so don't get upset. I'm going to hold my hand up if you're watching on camera. I don't know how to help you on podcast, but I'm going to hold my hand up, and when my hand is down, you can skip forward. Okay?
Yeah, skip. You guys skip.
All right, my hand's up, YouTube. Podcast, I don't know what to tell you. Just skip forward a few minutes. So here we go. Spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine. They pull a Deadpool and go to another universe and grab a Tony Stark and bring him to the sacred timeline. Who they actually pull is Victor Von Doom. And they brought a bad variant of Tony Stark that is actually Victor Von Doom.
Holy shit.
He starts wrecking shit.
Holy shit.
That's a theory. I wish I could give credit to the guy, but I lost the tweet, and I apologize. But it is not my original idea. So these are the kinds of things that get me excited.
Whoa.
And this is the kind of thing that's like, that's exactly what we've been building towards with the multiverse saga. Like, we talked about it during Deadpool. This is how you utilize the multiverse. But apply. Oh shit! I took my hand down. When you, oh my god, I'm terrible at this. I suck. But when you do this, it's almost like, what I want to know, what they didn't clarify, is he playing Tony Stark variant as Dr. Doom, or is he playing Victor Von Doom?
That's what I want to know too.
So they kept referring to him as Victor Von Doom. They never said anything about him playing Tony Stark. They never said anything about him playing a Tony Stark variant. They said he is Victor Von Doom. That's why I'm not really excited, because I wish it was another actor, and I don't know what they do if they just get rid of him because he's the villain in one movie. It's like, that's the kind of stuff I don't know how to get excited about. But I feel like they were intentional with that because they're smart. And the Russos have done this shit more than anybody.
Yeah, they have. Seasoned.
All right, I'll stop rambling. What's your take on that theory and where we could go with that? And
on our podcast, Joe was trying to throw some ideas out there. He was like, "Well, what if?" And I respect the hell out of him for trying to do it. He's like, "What if Tony's dad didn't want Tony, dropped him off as a kid. He gets whisked away to Latveria, and he goes by the name of Victor Von Doom, but he's actually a Tony Stark in that universe, and he was supposed to be Tony Stark, but he wasn't." Throwing out all these ideas why he would be a Victor Von Doom as opposed to another version of Tony Stark that turns evil.
But that is Tony Stark.
But that is Tony Stark, exactly. So how is he, and that's the question on everybody's mind, how is he not a Tony Stark variant? How is he Victor Von Doom? And he just looks, because you can't tell me that he's going to, hey, spoiler for Secret Wars, when Tom Holland's Spider-Man is fighting Dr. Doom and his mask goes, oh no, mask flies off. You're going to tell me that Spider-Man's going to look at that guy and not think of Tony Stark? He's going to think of Tony Stark. So then how are they going to explain that if he's a different person? That being said, Ryan, what you just said is the first time I have been at least interested in this idea of him being a Victor Von Doom as opposed to a Tony Stark variant. That is fascinating to me. And that is a theory that makes all of the sense in the world, because not only, and you think of Across the Spider-Verse, right? When you get taken out of your timeline and you get put into another, it starts to mess things up. No matter what is happening, no matter who is involved, it starts to mess things up. And so when they bring an evil Tony Stark, Victor Von Doom looks like Tony Stark, into their timeline, it's really going to start messing things up. And we could get some really cool moments. And this is being the end of it all. We could see some character deaths. We could see the man that we knew as the pivotal being of this universe, the hero, the anchor being, hand up, anchor being, if you will. I mean, that's out of context. I guess it's really not a spoiler for Deadpool and Wolverine. But if that is indeed the case, that could be a form of payoff that does feel like they really put every ounce of thought and effort into this. And that theory, Ryan, is the first time that I have been excited about this idea. Now, it's one of 1,000 theories that are floating around online.
And it's not perfect, because it kind of seems stupid if they were like, all right, let's go get a Tony Stark, and then they go see a guy. Why would a Victor Von Doom be in the place of a Tony Stark? Because then they're like, whoa, we got the wrong one. It's like, no, that's stupid. Because if it's Victor Von Doom, it's Victor Von Doom. So why would he be in a different place and people think it's Tony Stark? Like,
in the comics, there is something known as God Doom. God Doom's bad, and I believe God Doom is a part of Secret Wars, and this is a Doctor Doom that is, I believe, part of one of the, I don't know if it's a multiversal council, but it's a council of sorts, and in the comics, he turns good for a while and then goes back bad. What if this version of Victor Von Doom is, again, this is just stupid fan speculation, so I'm an idiot, I acknowledge that, but what if Victor Von Doom is fully aware that they're coming to get Tony Stark, is fully aware of it, and he's behind being in this position when they get him, and his entire goal is to go to the main timeline, which is 616, because he knows if I can go there, I can mess all this up. Not just this timeline, all the timelines. And so that right there is like, they can do this. They can make this work. But again, we're just two guys that have no association just floating this around. And we're not saying that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm not acting like I can predict or come up with every single little thing that they're going to do. They're going to outsmart me, and I totally get that.
We'll be way off. Yeah.
I was going to say, what we're talking about is some other dude's theory, so it's not perfect, but it's an idea. But also, I mean, in a way, I could just go on and criticize it because it's like, why would we want to see the exact same plot line from Deadpool be the Doomsday plot line? You know, it's like, I mean, we could just do that. But something along those lines, I rewatched the interview between Brandon Davis and Kevin Feige. I watched it before the movie, but I watched it again today because Brandon had seen the first 35 minutes and he was familiar with the term anchor being. So again, before the movie came out, before I even saw it, I heard the term anchor being, and Kevin Feige was excited that he picked up on it. And so rewatching it now with this context, Kevin Feige was like, "Ooh, I like that you remembered." And that's why I said Kevin Feige, this takes him where he needs to get. So if where he needs to get is finding a proper conclusion for the multiverse saga, writing his way out of what the fans are critical of, I think he's just happy that we're picking up on stuff again. It reminds me of, that's the kind of thing I remember experiencing during WandaVision. WandaVision had us asking more questions about the MCU and the multiverse saga maybe than any other project that I can remember. Maybe because it was on a week-to-week basis, but we were trying to figure out everything during WandaVision, week to week.
So exciting.
If you remember, it's either the first or second episode, they do one of their fake commercial breaks, and it's where we first heard of what a Nexus point was. And then they kind of teased that in Multiverse of Madness. Is that what it's called, right? The Nexus point?
I believe so.
So they teased what that was. And that's what anchor being reminds me of. So that's what Multiverse of Madness teases at the very end, right? With Charlize Theron. Is that what they're worried about at the end? Or is it another term that they use? What am I forgetting?
I think it was a different term because I just saw today on Twitter how somebody was like, I can't believe they haven't acknowledged this again from Multiverse of Madness. And I'll tell you where my head's been at too, Ryan, just a quick pivot. I have been, because Avengers Endgame ended the way it did and Tony Stark died, my head immediately went to the fact that, well, why, if he is the anchor being of this universe, well, why didn't their universe start to decay, start to fall apart like it happened in Deadpool and Wolverine? But then my brain went to, I remember a line that Matthew McFadden's character had where he said, I'm actually speeding this up. This is a process that takes a long time.
That's right.
And I'm speeding it up. And so then I'm like, so it could be Tony Stark. Because I've been seeing that argument on Twitter too. Some people forgetting that was a line in the movie saying, well, it can't be Tony Stark because he's been dead for years and they haven't started to wither away yet. It's Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange would make sense for sure. But Tony Stark makes more sense. And this process beginning years down the road, because of that, man, it does feel like they had this planned out, doesn't it? Because of that integral line by his character in Deadpool and Wolverine, it makes all the sense in the world. And so Kevin Feige being that excited about that in that interview is fascinating. He had this look on his face of, oh, so you all are catching on to this idea, this seed that we've planted. Marvel doesn't plant seeds for no reason, folks.
Right.
Even if the plan falls apart, which we've seen happen several times, they have a plan. So there is a plan for the term anchor being, and I guarantee it has to do with this Robert Downey Jr. casting. I guarantee it.
Incursion is the term, by the way, that they were speaking to. My bad.
Yep. You're fine. Will that ever get acknowledged again?
Oh, hey, probably not. No. I've decided let's not dance around Deadpool and Wolverine spoilers. I'm going to put a thing at the beginning of the podcast that nobody should listen to so that we can speak freely. So that's the last time that's the last time I'll dance around it. But
Henry Cavill.
That's right. So I think that Kevin Feige also had a plan if they couldn't get Downey back. And this is another thing that I've been thinking about. How long has this been part of the plan? Because I've seen certain reports that make it seem like this has been a thing for a while. And that this is just the first time that they've been able to get it out to the public. So have you seen Anthony Mackie and Florence Pugh's reaction to this?
I've seen Florence Pugh's on the red carpet.
Do you think she knew that he was coming back? Or do you think this is the thing that was only between the filmmakers? Would they have told the rest of the cast and other movies this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I feel like this was a genuine, because, I think back to the behind the scenes of Avengers Endgame, and people are filming that movie not even know. I mean, apparently they didn't even know Tony Stark died. And they were at a wedding, I think, instead of a funeral. And so I think they're genuine, which I haven't seen Mackey's, but I think they're genuinely just unaware.
To play devil's advocate and to make sure people understand why I'm asking, I've just never seen another actor react to MCU news like that before. So I was just curious what you thought of their facial expressions. Second of all, I'll play devil's advocate and say that I think it's slightly different, because if they're going into production on Doomsday next year, these actors will need to know who the villain is that they act against, and not necessarily the surprise shock ending that Tony Stark dies. So I understand what you're saying, and that's why that's what you just said is why I asked the question in the first place. Do we think these actors would even know that particular detail? But that's kind of just why I felt the need to ask, because it felt different to me. There was something about Mackey's reaction too, where I couldn't really read him, because he looked shocked, but he went straight into like, oh, give me a piece of him. I want to kill him. Like, it was just like, he was so Mackie about it. He wasn't. So part of me was like, did he know? Like, even if Downey, like, I don't know how often these actors talk about things. So like, whether Kevin Feige brought in Mackie or not, it's one thing. But if Downey was like, hey, did you know I'm going to kick your ass in Avengers 5 or whatever? I don't know. I don't know how all this stuff works, but it's fun to imagine it either way. But I kind of want to bring in the Russos now, because we haven't really touched on this yet. But
yeah,
I think the Russos are another reason why people are cynical. Because it seems like a desperate attempt to bring back the magic that once was, to please the fans, to guarantee box office.
Yep.
How do you feel about it, the Russos?
It's amazing that I have all of these very similar critiques, from the Robert Downey Jr. decision to bring him back, to the Russo brothers bringing them back, and yet it's desperate, it's familiar, it's this, it's that, but it makes all the sense in the world. All the sense in the world, especially, now maybe I would have been more on my own side a week ago, because part of me was like, yeah, bring the Russo brothers back. It's very safe. They could have got a different filmmaker, this and that. but they were responsible for the legacy of Tony Stark, how that ended in Avengers Endgame. That was kind of their baby, right? How they brought his story to a close.
I think Cap was probably more so their baby, but they were still the shepherd of, because again, the death of Tony Stark seemed a little reactionary, like it was more late in the game because they were looking at what Logan did. And so, they talked about that. They wanted to give RDJ a send off the way that they gave Logan. Now they want to give him a comeback the way they gave Logan. But anyway,
they captained the ship. I think that's a better way to say it. They were the captains of the ship, and they were responsible for that working. And so I think about the decision to bring back Robert Downey Jr., whether I was completely on board with it or not. And I'm like, who would I trust to handle this? I trust the Russo brothers. Now, could I grow to trust another filmmaker if they handle it right? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it does kind of stink that we're not getting somebody else in here to make this work, bring it all together. We get a different style, right? It's going to feel like Infinity War Endgame. But we know that works, right? We know that works. And so for them to come back and handle this, bringing him back into the universe, I've completely flipped on where I was a week ago, saying it's just so safe and it's boring. Yep. But I feel like it's the right decision. I feel like it's something they have to do for this to work, because this is the most ambitious project in Marvel history. Maybe in blockbuster history. And I'm not talking filmmaking. I'm not talking, James Cameron, Avatar, we're going to break ground, new technology, all that stuff. I'm talking specifically bringing in an entire universe of characters. Not one universe, an entire 25, 30-year span of characters into one movie. I'm talking from Blade and Elektra and Daredevil and Fantastic Four to Spider-Man, and Spider-Man to all of the MCU and Secret Wars. You can mark it down right now. I will be right. Most of them are going to be in that movie. And so they're going to try to one-up themselves from Avengers Endgame. They're going to try. It could be a disaster. It could be horrible. But they're going to try. So in that way, it's the most ambitious thing that Marvel's ever embarked on. And so who better to get than the two guys that did it and then did it again, and now they're trying to one-up themselves 2 more times. The Russo brothers are the right call. It's the right choice. I am 100% sold on that.
Some might say.
I know they will.
Some might say that this is the exact same playbook that Lucasfilm used for The Rise of Skywalker.
Sure. Yeah.
And I didn't know it until I saw it, but memeing that picture behind you with them wheeling out Ian McDiarmid at the end of that celebration panel.
Somehow he returned.
Bringing J.J. Abrams back. I think that on paper, it's the exact same play. And at the time, as passionately as you spoke, I think I spoke the exact same way about J.J. Abrams coming back to episode 9. The critical difference is that the Russos, I think, were in a different place before, how should I put this? Leading up to this moment, Marvel was way more consistent and on fire. When J.J. Abrams crushed, quote unquote, The Force Awakens, we had no idea where that franchise stood creatively. So I do agree with you that the Russo brothers have more and deserve more goodwill from us as fans. Do I question whether they are hacks or not when they're not making Marvel projects?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
And I will not walk back my stance. The Russo brothers have been absolute failures outside of Marvel. And I will not pretend that they haven't been. But at the same time, I think the Russos are incredible collaborators.
Yep.
I think when the Russo brothers work under the Marvel engine with Kevin Feige, Marcus and McFeely, and it's important to know that one of those writers is coming back as well. I can't remember which one because I get confused, but one of the two are coming back. And who knows? Maybe we'll find out the other one is too. So nobody knows how to make these movies more than all of the people that are making these movies. And I was sitting here thinking as you were talking, I don't think they could have announced any director to where I feel like I can recline back, drink a Pepsi Zero, and just wait for the release of these movies with the Russo brothers. You could have said Sean Levy, I would have been like, You could have said you could have said Sam Raimi, and I would have been like,
All right.
You could have said Daniel Destin Cretton or whatever his name is, Destin Daniel Cretton, whatever, Shang-Chi's director. But with the Russo brothers, I just go.
And it's so funny you say that because keep in mind, all three of those directors you mentioned outside of the Marvel umbrella, I believe are better directors than the Russo brothers. But it's all about context. And the context of the situation is that they are doing what they do best, collaborating with Kevin Feige and bringing our heroes together. That's what they do best. They've proven it 3 times. Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, bringing our heroes together. And so who better to get than maybe directors that aren't as good outside the Marvel umbrella, but the guys that have done it, and they've done it, and they've done it. And I think that's the key difference between those guys and J.J. Abrams coming back, is they've proven themselves 3 times. J.J. Abrams, they gave us Force Awakens, which worked for the most part for a lot of people, but there was still some hesitancy, right? It's like, where are we going? What do we got next? Who are we bringing in? Are these other directors going to be able to take it over and do it justice? And that just kind of, so JJ was setting the stage. The Russo brothers were kind of ending things off. I think that's the key difference here. And the way that they ended things off felt as if they brought it all together beautifully, whereas JJ was setting the stage. They decided to pivot, bring him back, and it was a failure. It was an epic failure. But I just feel like those two situations, for me, just feel so drastically different.
And JJ didn't play nice with Kathleen, didn't play nice with the story group.
No.
Didn't play nice with Rian Johnson. J.J. Abrams couldn't even make a sequel to his own fucking movie. The Russos made 3 sequels, 4 total movies. Whoa, Rian Johnson said screw it, screwed him over. But no. They could have come up with anything other than The Rise of Skywalker, for the love of God.
Anything.
For the love
Anything.
Anyway. So that's why we'll put the kibosh on that comparison, because I happen to agree with you, but I felt the need to bring it up because I think it's valid at least. I mean, because those people, I mean, they're thinking we're gas bags. They're thinking this is the same shit that we already went through with the Disney Star Wars shows. Look at these Marvel. I mean, I get it. It is the same it's the same language. That's why we need a podcast to explain this kind of stuff. So anyway,
but if they don't want to trust it, though, I think that's the key difference between us and some of the people on Twitter that are just going to argue this until they're numb, and then they're going to argue it some more. Is I just feel so much better now, knowing that, and you got to put all these things together. This is the direction they're going. Mm-hmm. That's the actor they're bringing back, and these are the guys that have done it before, and again and again. And try to get away from it. Weren't very good. Now they're back. And I think that only makes someone stronger, Ryan. When you have that many failures after so much success, that's going to make someone stronger. And so maybe this is both of these guys thinking, hey, let's prove that we still got the juice. We still got the sauce. We got the magic. And so when they say they're going all in, Ryan, their careers are literally on the line. They were on life support
right
before they were announced to be directors of these movies on life support. And so this is their chance to maybe get another shot at it in game. That was their shot. They did great. Didn't work after that. This is their next chance. They got to nail these two movies. So they have everything riding on this. And that gets me excited because it makes me think they're going to try even harder this time around.
Yeah, I think that's what sucks about waiting for this kind of stuff. And it sucks not hearing again. That's the thing I keep coming back to. It's just you wrap it up in some PR bullshit, say it the way that you want to say it, but some kind of acknowledgement would have helped.
Sure.
It would have helped to take us through, like to help us understand how long they've been working on this. Because again, the narrative is, oh, they had to trouble at Marvel Studios. They had to pivot fast. Jonathan Majors went to prison and they're scrambling or whatever. They're scrambling. They got to bring back RDJ. It's like, maybe if you had mentioned like how long this had been stewing, even if you want to make some shit up, like, this is actually what Kang Dynasty was all about all along. Okay, whatever. Just something. But at the same time, I think Kevin Feige, think about, they were making Civil War. They were making it.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know if Spider-Man was a part of it. Think about that.
It's true.
So they had to have a movie without Spider-Man. They had to have a movie without Black Panther, because Black Panther was kind of like that too. They weren't so. I think that they had an idea for a movie if Downey said no.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think the fact that Downey came back is encouraging, because maybe their idea was so strong, their offer was so strong. RDJ, as you spoke, he's equally a collaborator on these projects, not just Marcus McFeely, Kevin, and the Russo brothers. And
for sure.
Do I know how it's going to work? Am I scared for how it's going to work? Yes. But I think what I've come around to after seeing Deadpool Wolverine is that we are building towards something like this. I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like it makes sense in the moment. And I know that it's going to be a long journey to 2026 when this movie comes out, right? 2026, May.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long 2 years going back and forth. But here's what I want to kind of stress, and it's what I've been trying to get across in my Star Wars videos. Criticize what you want to criticize. Love what you want to love. But if you want to criticize the studio, if you want to criticize the filmmakers, take it out on the filmmakers and the studio. You don't really need to take it out on each other. Like, if Disney is to blame for something, blame Disney. Yeah. If you have a problem with The Acolyte, that's what I wish. I wish that was going on online. If you have a problem with The Acolyte, do not go gentle on Disney, on Lucasfilm. No. These are corporate entities, and they should not expect us to just take any slut that they throw at us, especially when they're currently interpreting 50-year-old IPs. But the same goes for Marvel.
It does.
If you want to criticize Marvel, I get upset with fandom. I get upset with people online. I'm not going to act like I'm perfect. But I will commend you for holding Marvel Studios to a standard. Do I think that they listen to you? I have no idea. Sometimes do I wish that they didn't, because some of you all had terrible opinions? Yes. But the people that I'm most upset with aren't the people that have opinions about our DJ. They're the people that are posting the videos in the theaters, from the theaters, all these spoilers on X and Twitter, those shit bags.
Oh man.
Yeah. I am more pissed at the people that act like that, or the people that just come up with dumb shit to just care about that doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. There are just some terrible takes on Twitter that don't even exist in any reality that we share. I wish I had an example, but clearly I can't be trusted to save or bookmark any of the tweets that I need when I'm on the podcast. I might be able to find some that just make no sense at all, but yeah, it's not the people that are skeptical of Russo's, skeptical of Feige, skeptical of RDJ. It's the people that are just being shitty about posting spoilers and posting videos, terrible theatrical etiquette. That's the stuff that is pissing me off, and that's the kind of stuff that I think is worthy of calling each other out over, but not our opinions on the movie. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. I do have an issue with the way a lot of people are being extremely, and I don't care if you're condescending about the movie itself or the universe itself, whatever. That's fine. You can hate all you want, man. You can say it's the biggest load of crap I've ever seen, but don't say that people go and see the movie are idiots. Don't be condescending towards those that really, really enjoy these movies, man, because I come from yes, I am a movie critic. Okay. Some would say a terrible one. My wife would say a mediocre one. But I am and have always been, first and foremost, a fan of comics and superheroes. And dude, I had the full set as a 6-year-old of the Justice League action figures, the Justice League Beanie Babies, the Marvel coloring books. My first time watching Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man as a young lad was the moment my life changed.
Right.
Ryan Snelling. I was swinging through my living room. Okay. I was on cloud 9. That meant more to me then than really any movie has meant to me since then. Now, I'm not saying that's the best movie or anything. Right. Because No Country for Old Men really changed my life in that aspect, but I'm a comic book fan. And so when we as comic book fans get excited over these things that they are clearly doing in Deadpool and Wolverine to just pour their heart and soul out to those who loved these characters and have loved these characters and have wanted to see them represented on screen together in this way, when people start being condescending towards that, okay, that's what I have a problem with. And that's what I've seen a lot of. The film snobs who can have those opinions, a lot of them are very valid story issues that I completely agree with. But when you say you piggies want to eat up all this comic book slop, yes, but that's what I've always wanted to see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And just to make sure that my point is clear, I don't think we should, I just don't want to be divided. Like, naturally, we're all going to have different opinions, but I just want people to relax on each other's opinions. Like,
for sure.
Because I remember I admitted that I wrongly used to point the finger at people who hated Star Wars without truly understanding where they were coming from. I've spent a lot of time listening to people that are sometimes very hard to listen to see if I can grasp a more objective understanding as to where the other side has come from. And not only do I understand it, I actually have agreed with a lot of their points, and I've completely changed. So now that I know better, I kind of just want to make sure other people are more considerate of that. So I'm not telling you what to think, but I just think everybody should relax when it comes to what other people are thinking.
And let's the elephant in the room there, there are crappy people on both sides, Ryan. There are people that will review bomb
on both sides.
That was actually, that was really good.
No,
I like
it
that.
wasn't good.
I've tried it. I'm terrible at it. But I used to do a really mean George Bush, by the way. But
I can see that.
I do believe that there are, the guys who go and review bomb movies 1 star, 1 star, 1 star before it comes out. That's my issue with that side.
Makes no sense.
That's what I hate. It makes no sense. It's stupid. And you're kind of hurting yourselves at that point, because for us to listen to your criticisms, okay, I need to take you seriously. And I can't take you seriously if you're getting on IMDb and review bombing something before you watch it. That's my issue. I've got to be able to take you seriously. Okay? And there's no trust there. You have compromised that trust by doing something that is so ridiculous and out of pocket. I just can't trust you at that point. Now, for the people that express those opinions and have those problems and then go give it a 1 star on IMDb and have a rational reason behind it, most of the time, I'm going to be like, you know what? You're making a lot of sense, especially with Star Wars. I just hate when they do those things beforehand, because you're really compromising what I'm trying to feel you on here. I'm trying to be on your side.
Right.
But it's hard to do that sometimes.
But that's one of those things. And again, I admit that I did this. I was 100% part of the problem. But when you come from a place where you're just angry, you're going to come off like a prick. So that's the problem, is when people voice their opinions online, half the time you've checked out already because you've already decided that this guy's going about it the wrong way. Like, there are people that are judged online. I will not name names because you freaks lose your minds when I do. But there are people online that get labeled certain things, not because of their opinions necessarily, but how they deliver them. And how they behave and how they come across. So I
play the game too.
I have looked past that and learned a lot about where these people are coming from. But it only helps. It only benefits the people that already think those things, and that's where this idea of just being in echo chambers and existing in bubbles, you can only come across and speak to the people that already think that way when you do things like that. And
can I make a comparison?
Sure.
A little bit. It kind of reminds me of politics, right? You
100%.
got your Republicans, you got your Democrats, and they're in their own little bubbles, and they will not hear the other side.
Yes.
And I can't stand it. I can't stand you people. You're living in your own little world, and maybe there are some things that you could mutually agree on, but you refuse to listen.
Right.
And that's the problem. And it's the exact same thing with this Star Wars division, with this Marvel division, and with you could apply it to anything, House of Dragons division. You will not hear the other side out. And that's the problem. And that's the issue that I have with just this entire space on the internet right now. It's ridiculous.
Well, here, I'll call this out. I don't like how there are streamers that stay in their own bubbles, right? And so, like, when here's what I want to see Roxy Stryer, John Roca, Christian Harloff, John Campea. I want to see them on a stream with Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, Geeks and Gamers. Why don't these people talk to each other? No, seriously. Quit.
I agree.
Like, if you watch Geeks and Gamers, they stream with Nerdrotic, streams with RK Outpost, streams with Critical Drinker. That's all good. And I respect the content. And a lot of those guys are excellent at what they do. Regardless of whether you agree with them or not, it honestly makes me laugh sometimes because they come off like wrestling characters. And it reminds me a little bit of how I got into Flick Pick. Because the way that this, and I'm saying that they're so good on mic. And Campea is like that too. Campea is really good on mic, but a completely different type of personality. But Campea is the kind of dude that stays in his bubble and, to be honest, looks down on other streamers that think differently of him. And it's like, how about you all make content together? Like, stop with the, being divided, all the fucking bullshit where you indirectly talk shit about each other. Listen to each other on each other's shows. That's what I want, honestly. like it pisses me off because I started feeling this way because once someone look in my videos, when I have my YouTube background showing and it's like a PMP shot, anybody can see what I'm watching on YouTube, right? So like when I did my video talking about the Stuckman and Flick Pick video, you can see that I watch Campia. You can see that I watch Robert Meyer Burnett. You can see I watch Flip Pick. You can see I watch Geeks and Gamers. You can say I watch Snyder. And depending on what narrative they want to spin about me, Ryan Snelling is alt-right. Ryan Snelling is a woke lib. Ryan Snelling is
my God.
They'll call me everything.
So annoying.
They'll call me everything, which is wrong.
Yeah.
What I love about myself is that I'm watching everything. That's a good thing. I'm watching it all. And if we could just take it one step further and get all of these personalities together, that would be incredible. And you're 100% right. It's exactly like politics. As much as it sucks to bring that up here on the pod,
it's true.
But what we're championing is unity. So I'm not going to feel bad about that. So there are things that I'm passionate about. There are things that other people are passionate about that I don't care for. But I think it's really important I'm not telling you what to think. I just think it's important to open your ears sometimes. That's all. I do it too. I need to do it too. I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to preach. I just think it benefits all of us. And I'm saying that as a fan because I think we'd all just be able to have more fun. Like I want to have more fun. And I think I can help somebody else have more fun if I talk to them instead of write them off, instead of dismiss them, instead of look down on them. It's, I think I would benefit from listening more. So it's just something I encourage other people to do.
I'm not even saying it. I'm with you. I'm not even saying it as a creator. I am saying it purely as a fan, purely as someone who wants to see and hear this, and I think the pushback we'll get is, well, Austin, I mean, if you get these guys on screen together, all they're going to do is yell at each other. Why is that the first place we go? Why can't we believe in people that they're going to be rational enough to sit down and have an adult conversation? And maybe there'll be some screaming and yelling along the way. I'm sure there will be. But at the end of the day, we can acknowledge that they just share different beliefs.
And at least they did it. And at least they did it.
Yeah. They tried. And that's all we can give. And that was the comparison I was going to make earlier. Is it does remind me of little high school cliques. Like I thought I graduated years ago. I thought I was done and gone, right? High school's where I peaked. I acknowledge that, but I was out of there. Okay. Well, you've got the guys over here. You've got the jocks. You've got the cool kids. You've got the nerds. You've got the geeks. You've got the goths. You've got all these kids, and they don't talk to each other.
Right.
But if they just talk to each other, maybe they'd realize they had some things in common. You know what we're saying right now? Obvious shit. Things that 12-year-olds would understand. Things that children should be learning in school and comprehending. Hey, why don't we all just talk to each other and maybe share some different opinions? But for some reason, all of these creators, one side or the other, or maybe a little bit of both, they just refuse to talk to each other and acknowledge that and not hear each other out. And I'm not even like specifically saying Harloff and Campy and all these guys. These are guys that for a huge portion of my life, I looked up to. And the only reason I don't now is because, I mean, I'm older. I have a kid of my own. I've kind of grown into the person that I am. You have more subscribers
than most of them. What?
Well, but even then, but I'm still, even with that, Ryan, I'm still the newbie, right? Because they were in the game for 15, 18 years. I'm still the new guy on the block, which is crazy. And that's why these guys, they can go and do anything. And those kids who are now adults, that fan base for years, they're still going to be there for them. You know, people were telling me, they were like, hey, man, Dan Murrell's channel, he's going to pass you up. I'm like, dude, I was watching Dan Murrell when I was 12. Yeah, of course he is. It's like if freaking Robert Downey made it. That's how I looked up to these guys, They were the OGs. They were there. And not specifically Dan Murrell, but I want to see these guys on the right, these guys on the left, not politically, just one side or the other, kind of start communicating and build a space that isn't built on division, that isn't built on, well, here I am we'll go back to politics. I am the liberal YouTube channel. If you're a liberal, you can listen to me and talk to me. Well, I am the far conservative YouTube channel. If you're a conservative, no, why can't a liberal watch a conservative YouTube channel and not feel degraded all the time? Why can't it go the other way around? These bubbles that people get themselves in, and it just feels so isolated and so childish.
Yeah.
It's so childish, Ryan.
I was joking, by the way. I'm well aware I don't even have 5,000 subscribers, and YouTube is hard for everybody.
It's just so hard.
Before somebody's like, you don't even have 5,000 subscribers. Yeah, I know. It was a joke. I had one more point I was going to make. I was also going to awkwardly segue right into Sidewinder or some bullshit, but no. I would love, and I'm not saying this comedically. Like, if there was a day when I saw, bro, do you remember when Chris Gore used to be on Collider Heroes? Think about that. I
do.
Think about
that.
And Collider was known and maybe still known to be woke lib central, far left.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Gore has become what some people say alt-right, anti-woke. Like, that's hilarious. That might be the last time there was unity in fandom, is when Chris Gore, John Schnepp, and to be fair, I think Schnepp, Robert Meyer Burnett, and Chris Gore were the best about that. They were the best about just letting people come in and have their own opinions. Pushback, sure. Great discussion, sure. But even campiest show now, there's no discussion on that show. I mean, I was talking about it when I made my videos last year. It's like they're on a ticking clock. He just cares about it being about SportsCenter and getting to the next ad break. It's like there's no room to breathe on that show. So it's like, anyway, I think that would actually help the fandom a lot.
Yep.
Because if we saw all of these guys that we watch and look up to interacting with each other, we'd all be forced to interact with each other, and I think it would change the behavior. So I'm just a guy who doesn't have 5,000 subscribers, so I don't know what to do to help with this kind of thing.
And we're speaking to, I am a guy that has, I think, a decent amount of subscribers.
You do?
Although I've never considered my channel to be really one side or the other.
But other people have.
Well, other people have, man. Oh, man, I've been called woke. I've been called a shill. I've been called, someone who just completely, why are you reviewing this religious movie, Austin? So I've been called woke, but then I review a religious movie and all of a sudden I'm a conservative psycho. And so but think about this, man. We as viewers, talking to myself, because, again, I grew up loving these guys, loving your Harloffs, your Campias, and all these guys. And I think I would have a great conversation with some of these guys, right? But I think we reflect what some of these creators do. And so when creators that are big in the space and they are looked up to by a lot of people, a lot of younger kids, when they choose not to communicate with the other side, that reflects on the fandom. That reflects on these young kids who say, well, they're not talking to that side. I'm not going to communicate with that side. They're probably a bunch of psychos. They're a bunch of right-wing psychos, or they're a bunch of left-wing psychos. So when they choose not to do it, it reflects poorly on the fandom. And I think that is, I'm not going to say that's the reason, but that's just another branch of why it's just escalated into what it is. And so I do think, myself included, maybe I need to go reach out to somebody on one side and then the next day go to Critical Drinker and say, hey, man, have me on your channel. Maybe we could have a discussion. Because I have never been one to fully subscribe to be honest with you, to one side or the other, because I try to see all options. But that doesn't make me any better because, again, I'm not doing the example that I'm giving you. So I am, I guess, technically part of the issue.
Well, I mean,
so maybe I need to change as well.
Well, I am too, but I also need to think about this more because I don't even know how we got on this topic, which is fine. But I'm not going to plant my flag and act like I'm going to, follow this crusade until I die. But I mean, I do candidly just think it would help if they did it because it's just something I've noticed watching online. But I need to think about this more. And I would love, I haven't talked to Robert Meyer Burnett in a while. He's super busy with some kind of project, but he's exactly the kind of person I wish I could reach out to and ask. He's kind of a difficult person to nail down, to be honest, but I haven't even talked to him in like a year or so. But talking to him, do you know TikTok George?
George
Carmy, is that his name?
We've talked a couple of times when I first made a TikTok. We talked through messages.
Big fan of George.
Me too.
He is completely against everything we're talking about here. With he's out on the MCU and everything, and so I've been reading through his tweets and just kind of picking up on how he's feeling and things like that. Sydney Volpe, she gave Deadpool. Yeah, I do too. I've never talked to her, but I'm a fan. But she gave Deadpool Wolverine at 1.5 stars.
Oh, I know, man. I vehemently disagree with most of the things that she said, to be honest. Even though I love her to death.
She's great.
I love her. But we
gotta get these guys on. Selfishly, I'm just naming the people that I want to have on the podcast anyway. But they just happen to be on the other side of.
We hate their stance on this movie, but we absolutely love watching them. So everything we're saying is a compliment.
That's why we need them. We want them on desperately because they think differently. So anyway, man, that was a lot.
It was. I feel riveted.
Let's do more.
Hey, who you voting for?
You remember?
Just kidding. That was a joke.
It's so funny because every other person in that moment guessed differently. Think about that. If we have 100 viewers of this podcast, half of them thought I was voting for one, and half of them thought the other. That's how ridiculous all of this is.
No, because there's one person in there that thinks you're voting for Robert Kennedy. All right, so a little less than half, maybe. There's one guy. They're like, man, Ryan's an independent. I just know he is. I know he is. So maybe half and half. But that's the fascinating thing about it, right? Is people think they can read based on one element of what you say, but in reality, you're just a rational person that tries to consider everything. You ultimately fall on one side, but maybe the next discussion, you fall on a different side. I think that's just part of being a human being, Ryan, to be honest with you.
Let me tell you a little bit about a reaction, and then we'll get back on track. So today, I did my Star Wars theory video, where Star Wars Theory had that little tiff on Twitter with the Mary Sue journalist who interviewed Leslie Headland. You can find my video on Rewatch Ryan. But in the video, I'm talking about a Twitter beef. And while discussing Star Wars Theory, now he's a divisive figure in the space, I spoke to the fact that he is extremely knowledgeable in Star Wars. That's undeniable. Star Wars Theory knows a lot about Star Wars.
Yep.
So someone commented on my video today. Granted, it's been like 2 weeks since I made the video, but today somebody commented and said Star Wars Theory is a prequel apologist. And I replied, I am going to take that label right back off, because that has nothing to do with anything in my video. That person just wanted to project what they thought about Star Wars theory and use it to complain about my video and complain about Star Wars theory. So my reply was just, no, that's you projecting your shit. It has nothing to do with anything I've done or said in my video. You just wanted to comment that. You just wanted to tell me that you think Star Wars theory is a prequel apologist, which is an absolute waste of your time. But it also means that you've already just like come up with a thing that I think or that I feel. And I'm just like he doesn't trust me with my own opinion. It's like the prequels suck. That's not why I can't credit Star Wars theory for knowing a lot about Star Wars. And so that's the kind of shit where it's like you just already have your opinions, already have your labels, you already want to dismiss, you already want to act like you know what people think, what side they fall on. And it's all projected bullshit. It's all it is. It's just a waste of mental capacity and bandwidth.
And why can't you acknowledge that Star Wars theory? Say what you will about him and his little AI Star Wars movie that he's working on that looks like shit, but very knowledgeable.
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Very knowledgeable in the world of Star Wars. And there's no denying that man has put his entire life into learning as much as he possibly can. So say what you will about him. You were correct in that assessment.
So I don't want to come in and be a know-it-all here, but let me tell you something, because you might be interested to know this. Okay. So Star Wars theory did a terrible job of explaining what that content is. What the hell is this podcast? What are we doing? Anyway, Star Wars theory, I investigated this because initially...
Did you?
Initially, I agreed with what you just said.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
I dove into what this actually is a little bit more. So there's a precedent for this type of content on the channel where he used to put comic book panels, add smooth effects, transitions, and show us panels. He used to add sound effects to comic book panels, and do like motion comics for his channel, and they were super successful. So if someone doesn't know that and they see Star Wars theory being like, here's a clip of an episode of something I'm working on that I filmed on my phone that's not done yet, look at this, without explaining what the fuck it actually is, I was like, it's an interesting topic. We're talking about it with Stuckman. It's interesting and Critical Drinker even does this too. It's interesting that these critics, these pundits, what happens when they make their own content? Does it need to be better? I don't know. It's up for debate. It's an interesting topic, but we're talking a lot about it now. So he made a video explaining it further. And if you just take an extra second to look at it, he's using the wrong terminology. It is a motion comic, and it's just supposed to be, an image with narration, and there's like captions, like a comic book panel.
Okay.
And it's actually an existing comic. It is the Dark Empire Legends comic. All he's doing is bringing it to life in a motion panel. So it's not original content. And he's not trying to like make it cinematic or film anything. So he's honestly, and he put a lot of work into it. There's artwork that goes into it, but he adds narration, he adds the blaster sound effects, and then he just has the captions. They come in with like a little effect, but it's just a motion comic. But the term he's using to explain it is terrible. Like, hold on, let me look up what it is. But anyway, once I realized that he's just bringing to life a comic that he's a fan of so that people can enjoy it, because he's like, yeah, I used to make these videos all the time, and it caused people to actually buy more comics. So what he was actually doing was like, oh, it was pretty worth it. He keeps calling it comic movie fan film.
Yeah, that's
stop.
That's the issue. That's the issue.
Yeah, you need to call it. And to be fair, he puts the name of the comic in it. So to Star Wars Dark Empire comic movie fan film part 1.
Yeah.
It needs to be like Star Wars Dark Empire issue 1 motion comic.
You know what that is? He did what Doctor Strange did. Multiverse of Madness. That's not what the movie is. Don't call it that. It's not that. He did the exact same thing. All right.
Yeah.
And you know what, Ryan? I'll say this. I just did it. I just said that's a shitty thing because it looked like it was a shitty thing without looking into it. And so I think, first of all, thank you for explaining that. Second of all, I do genuinely believe something like that, which I didn't read into.
Right.
I mean, granted, I've been busy, but which I didn't read into. I just automatically had an opinion and stuck with it and ran with it. And that's an issue on my part. And so to Star Wars Theory, if you are listening, my apologies on calling your motion comic. Hey, motion comic.
He needs to he needs to change how he refers to it. At least
change the name.
At least it would help him from getting so much shit.
Yes.
He didn't do himself any favors by the way that he posted about it and what he called it. But
yeah, which at this point he may not care though, man. I mean, he's gotten so much flack. I mean, we've all gotten flack. I was getting Twitter. I was getting Twitter flack today for the way that I grade movies, the way that I score movies, and I was so they'd screenshot it. They didn't put my name in it, but I was just so like focused on real life things. I'm just like, whatever, man. At least they're talking about me, you know.
Yeah.
at least they're talking about me. It's fine.
Or it's like one of those things where it's just like
it's children.
It's just like sometimes you get comments and you're like, oh, you were just never going to subscribe. Like,
well, and all they were just mad that I liked Deadpool and Wolverine more than I saw the TV Glow, and so they took the way that I scored them, and they're like, I can't believe you did that. That's all it was. Like, they don't care about the way that I scored. They cared that I liked, and you know what? I did a lot more, and so that's fine. They can have their opinion or suck it. I don't care. It's fine.
What a weird episode of this podcast.
I love it. This is fun. This is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like I said, I'm not standing on a mountaintop. I thought the same way that you did, but I did do some research, and I have been watching a lot of these channels. And once I understood a little bit better, I was just like, oh, he's just not doing himself any favors because of the way he's. And it's actually kind of cool, but to be fair, I haven't watched it. So if you're upset because you think I'm talking about how great his motion comic is, I haven't seen it. So I haven't spoken on the quality of the fan film. I've just elaborated further on the topic itself. Anyway.
Amazing.
You want to burn through the other movies real quick and we'll head out of here?
Is that what we were talking about? Yeah, let's do it.
I'll give my most overall take on everything else involving Marvel at Comic-Con. I don't know how to get excited about these types of things anymore.
Sure.
And it's not even on the level of like where I'm at with the MCU necessarily. It's just that I don't think anything that comes out of these really blows my mind. We've already talked about the thing that blew my mind. Okay, yeah. So to find out that Giancarlo Esposito is Sidewinder, okay. I don't know who that is. I know some of you do. I don't know. Okay. I'm sure he'll be cool. And I'm sure I'll think he's a badass in the movie. We're going to find out there's adamantium in the movie. Okay.
All right.
We got adamantium in Deadpool and Wolverine. So
we did.
Okay.
It's true.
So there's things that are, I just don't know how to react other than to, I don't know what else to do other than just know the thing. Like now I know that he turns into Red Hulk in the middle of the speech. That's okay.
Yeah.
I still need to see the movie. So that's just kind of where I am with this kind of stuff. It could have been any movie. It could have been any amount of news. I'm more so intrigued more than anything about these interviews with Harrison Ford and Joseph Quinn, where they're just getting pissed off at the interviewers.
They just don't care.
I love it. And honestly, to be fair, so Joseph Quinn, I guess, had enough with being asked about being the youngest of the group. And this is like right after that one chick. Do you remember that chick that stopped Willem Dafoe in the middle of a hotel lobby to just be like, Willem. And then he turns around. He's like, yeah. And she goes, Peter Parker. And then he just like laughed and walked away.
What?
She stopped Willem Dafoe just to say Peter Parker. And God,
I've never
it
seen
sucks. I can't think of her name.
Oh, no.
And so she was also the one. She stopped Joseph Quinn on the A Quiet Place and said, Can you just help me live my girl fantasy and say, Haley, wake up? Like, Chrissy, wake up.
Oh, no. That hurts.
So Joseph Quinn says,
Cringe.
Sure, I can. And then he doesn't even try to do it in character. He just says, Haley, wake up. And then, of course, the only thing she can do is, oh my God, thank you so much. And you can tell that he feels like a dancing monkey. So Joseph Quinn is already like that. And the fact that he's been fed up by being asked, have you seen that interview? And Eben is standing right beside him.
I have. Oh, yeah.
There are people in the comments that, and I understand this, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I agree with it to an extent. There are people in the comments that are like, we used to have Chris Evans, who comes off as a cheerleader, happy-go-lucky guy, like loves the fan. And these, to be fair, those guys have been coached to death on how to handle this kind of stuff. Chris Evans is a comic book movie veteran. He knows how to deal with the fans. Joseph Quinn might not. So, at the same time, I am all for raising the standards of how we interview these celebrities. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sometimes I watch these interviews and I'm just like, this is an absolute waste of time. You should have spent a few more minutes on better questions because it benefits everybody. It benefits you. The people that give great interview questions stand out and are praised all the time by fandom and by actors. Sean Evans comes to mind. Kevin McCarthy comes to mind. It makes for better content. You enjoy yourself better. The actors enjoy talking to you more. And then overall, Josh Horowitz has made a career out of being the guy that people want to hang out with.
Yes.
Just do better than... Yeah. And that goes back to the fandom that annoys me on Twitter, too. I'll stop rambling. But going back to, don't get on each other for different opinions that, like, certain posts piss me off. I can't stand the Twitter humor where we just act like the actors are their characters from different movies. Here's a great example. I made fun of people during Creed 3. And I put a picture of Creed 3 up, and I said, Marvel fans be like, this winter, Kang goes up against Killmonger, like as a joke. And I kid you not 2 weeks later, that's what everybody was fucking saying on Twitter. Whoa, I can't believe Killmonger's going to kick the shit out of Kang in reaction to like the latest Creed 3 trailer. That humor sucks. Stop it. It's terrible. It's not funny. It's not creative, and it means nothing. I saw one today where someone posted a clip from Fantastic Four. It's the night street fight with Dr. Doom, played by the guy from Nip Tuck. I can't remember his name. And then Chris Evans, Johnny Storm swings in. And then they posted Chris Evans coming in to battle Robert Downey Jr. in Secret Wars. that's Chris Evans, but that's not Robert Downey Jr., and that's another movie. Why'd you post it? Makes no sense. It's stupid. I hate it. There's I hate that kind of humor, and I hate those kinds of posts. They make no sense. It's like when people don't like think of actors, they're always amazed actors can play other characters. It's like, it's so stupid. I can't stand that shit. I'm rambling now. Anyway, Sidewinder.
I find that so funny, not because that, I mean, it doesn't bother me, but I love that it bothers you that much.
Oh shit! I hate it, man.
That's the funniest.
I hate it.
I've never thought twice about it.
I hate
but now when I see one, I'm going to think, Ryan's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Like Ryan's going to hate his life.
Don't start sending me that shit. Please don't.
I'm going to send you every meme.
I hate
it. Oh my God. Oh, thank you.
I'm trying
to
see.
So
I'm trying to see if I can find one real quick. I'm going through my timeline.
Let's scroll for 5 minutes. You'll find one. I know you will.
If I look on my own timeline, I'll just find the Killmonger Kang one. But
oh, that's amazing. Oh man, that's awesome.
I just think that humor sucks so hard. I'm so.
Let's start every episode out with the meme of the week, but it's got to be that. It's got to be something along those lines.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that was awesome, man. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, I hate it for you, but it's really great.
That doesn't piss you off? That, like, I just think they're terrible. I just think they're bad posts. It's just terrible content. When people just are like, it'll be a screenshot from Goodwill Hunting. And it's like, man, Matt Murdock really, I don't know. It's just like so stupid.
Lucius Fox,
or when a new movie,
freaking Shawshank, there's Lucius Fox.
It'll be like, so Dead Reckoning. That's one where it's just like, oh wow, Captain Carter going up against Mantis. No, shut up. I can't stand that.
This is awesome. Oh, this is awesome, man.
Anyway,
thank you for that.
Sidewinder.
Who's dude? I am such a comic fan. I have no clue who that is. And you know what? The fact that they teased, you remember when they did that big event and they teased Captain America Civil War to be Serpent Society?
Yeah.
And that was the original title, and everybody's like, that's kind of lame.
Right.
I find it so lame that that's what they're actually doing now. What was made as a joke for the Civil War reveal, that's what they're doing. Like, they're going with the B plot for this Captain America movie. That's so lame to me. It could be great. I hope it's great, but it just feels so lame to me. I am not in the least bit excited for that aspect of that movie. It's much more just the rest of it.
To be fair, I don't know anything about the Serpent Society story. So it's possible that that's actually like a super relevant thing. But
sure.
So maybe that is something that fans are wanting to see. But I agree, it is kind of funny that they used it as like the joke. But at the same time, it's like
fake title.
There's already a million things going on in Brave New World. So I don't trust it to be that like big of a thing. This is going to be reversed.
Sure.
But here's my tweet. I'll just read it. Movie dorks are like, Creed 3 is about how Killmonger has a kid with Valkyrie and has to fight Kang. March 5th, 2023, before the release of Creed 3.
I think I genuinely think I recall seeing the meme of
that's right
Majors and Michael B. Jordan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest. It was more of like Giancarlo was like, I'm such a badass and your guys aren't gonna believe what character I'm playing, and it's just like, okay, never heard of you.
I thought Sidewinder was a Transformer. I'm not. I think he is. Sidewinder a Transformer?
What I do? What I know is that like when you watch John Campea and when you watch some of these other people try to guess who he is, and nobody guessed Sidewinder. So it's like, so it's just crickets chirping. But again, that's like one of those things where it's like, I'm just glad you're in the MCU. I'm glad you're a character. I hope to see more of you. I hope you crush it in the movie. It doesn't mean anything to me that you are or are not Sidewinder. And okay, we learned this at Comic-Con. I still need to see the movie. Like, that's kind of just what I do with all of this information now. So am I being too dismissive, or did anything else stand out to you about any of these movies? Thunderbolts?
Yeah, Thunderbolts. I have not been excited about Thunderbolts, and I still can't be excited, even with these big name characters like Sentry. I think is going to be in it. That's cool, but it's just like I like the creator. I believe it's the creator of Beef and one of the writers of The Bear. So that's something to get excited about. That's actually really cool. But again, I mean, we've had Chloe Zhao, we've had, countless big name, awesome directors just kind of. So I don't know. We'll see. Hey, you know what got me really excited?
What?
Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Man.
So here's the difference. I agree with you mostly about Thunderbolts. There are people online that are like, why aren't more people talking about Thunderbolts? We didn't see any footage. Like some of you might have seen leaked footage, but they haven't released a trailer. Or I'll be honest, I think the only thing we've seen from that movie are like Florence Pugh Instagrammed her first day of shooting. And it was like in the back, not a back lot, but in a studio lot. And it wasn't really anything. But it's like they keep using that promotional art, which is like a painted graphic. And like, I'm sorry, I don't give a shit that there's an asterisk in the name. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
whatever.
I don't know what that is. I don't care. It's not fun for me to try to get it out of Kevin Feige. I think it's stupid, to be honest. And I don't even know why. It's nothing. It's literally nothing. So I think I will be excited. But right now, it just sounds like a Suicide Squad ripoff with Marvel characters that some I like a lot and some I don't give a shit at all. Talking to you, Ghost. Anyway, so Fantastic Four had footage that you and I saw leaked. I may or may not have ripped it and have it on my computer right now. But we saw leaked footage. And guys, I don't know how to express what we saw other than it felt like old school World's Fair footage, 60s retro futuristic footage. I think the thing that stood out to me the most, though, it felt like some like space race, like just like the look and the cinematography of it.
Yeah.
It looked like the MCU didn't deserve this project. So I don't know if this goes back to this idea where like Mike Feige has to like get out of what we're doing through story to get us to this new place, to this new universe. Maybe he has plans to upgrade the look of all these movies, visual effects, cinematography, who knows? But without you all being able to see it, the look of this was unlike anything we've seen from the MCU. I think we saw glimpses of it in WandaVision when we got to play around with time periods and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what stood out to me the most. But the footage was sick, and it seemed like through grainy phone footage, it was maybe one of the best looking things Marvel's ever put out, period. Ever.
I felt the presence of WandaVision's director, because this is from the creator of WandaVision. That little game show sequence with the thing is very, I mean, I'm like, is that from WandaVision? Is that what I'm watching? Even the intro with Pascal with the kids in the classroom, that was very, also referencing the multiverse, by the way, which was an interesting touch. But the 60s aesthetic, this futuristic retro at the same time, 60s aesthetic with the space race, a little bit of an Incredibles feel. The way that they handled the past versions of the first movie, The thing that stood out to me, it looks amazing, is that score by Michael Giacchino. Oh my God, this may be the best score we have ever heard from a non-Avengers movie in the MCU, and maybe even better than the Avengers. When they hit that choir, Fantastic Four, that is one of the coolest things I have ever heard in an MCU promotional material, trailer, whatever you want to call it. Phenomenal. And if they can keep that vibe going with this movie, we're in for a treat. This is my most anticipated MCU project, Fantastic Four. My number one. I am even more excited about it than both Avengers movies, to be honest.
I agree. And I'm only worried about how little time there is before the release of this movie. They start shooting tomorrow.
Wow.
On principal photography. And the movie is less than a year away. Like by like a week, but still less than a year. So hopefully they've already done a shitload of previs, post-production on, the shots that don't need actors, things like that. So hopefully a lot of the prep work. I've never heard a director, or at least in like the last 3 phases, I've never heard of them going out and like scouting locations, looking for the type of rock that the thing is going to be. When have you ever heard a Marvel director say that they're doing shit like that? Like what?
Yeah.
Like that's what a real movie does.
That's a real movie, Ryan. Not a roller coaster film, a real movie.
Not the Marvel Factory. You know what's funny? I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm being dead serious with the comedic pitch. Marvel movies don't do shit like that. They do stuff in a computer and put things to blue screen. But that's I don't know, man. It's it seems pretty unique. And I'm hoping that it's not just because... I hope it's not like a Chloe Zhao thing. I hope it's not like something that they parade around like, we actually let Matt Shackman come in and be a filmmaker, but it's not going to ever matter again. And it's not going to change the precedent of how we make movies here. And, I hope it's not like that. I hope that this means the Avengers sequels are going to look like this. I hope they don't look like... I hope like the final fight scene, it doesn't look like they're in a landfill, and everything's brown.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, man. We've got Superman to contend with as well. And I'll be honest, the closer we get, that's not only are we already hyped for Fantastic Four, but I think we're going to get more hyped for Superman. And we're going to be losing our minds when these movies go head to head. Like, it's going to be great discussion. And, as much as we want to complain about where we're at right this second, next summer is going to be the shit.
Oh. And think about how cool it's going to be too, Ryan. You've got Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, going up against the representation of the DC universe and where it all started. And I'm thinking wrestling right now, the storyline of James Gunn going over from Marvel to DC, how that's going to be that make for a competitive spirit. And again, these two movies, they're going up against each other, but this is all for the betterment of the genre. The superhero genre will thrive if both of these movies are good. Yes. And you're going to have people saying, well, no, Superman's got to be good. Fantastic Four is going to suck. No, that's not going to be good for the superhero genre, the comic book genre. If they're both good, that is the best case scenario. If one is good, great. But the best case scenario is if we get 2 bangers next summer. And to be honest with you, I'm calling them a shot. I think they're both going to be really good. I think they're both going to be some of the better entries in the DC world, not this universe, it's just starting, and then recent Marvel. I genuinely believe that.
I agree 100%. So
good.
We're going to be in a good place. Is the Fantastic Four title awful? Yes.
First Steps. God, it's so bad. Why are they calling it that? I get the idea because it's the same thing that they did with Homecoming. First Steps. Oh, they go into space. First Steps, walking on the moon. Haha. And it's their first steps as a family. It's unnecessary, Ryan.
To be fair,
they don't need it.
Yeah. To be fair, it doesn't matter. The Spider-Man movies, they're all titled terribly. All of them.
Of course.
Of course. Homecoming is the cutest. Spider-Man Far From Home, it might be the worst title. It might be the worst title in the MCU.
It's so stupid.
But it's like, it doesn't even sound like a cool like comic book run. Like it's not like Uncanny X-Men or something like that. It's just the Fantastic Four, First Steps.
You know the worst part? When I review that movie, I'm going to have to title it that. And it's just so frustrating because I know everybody's going to be looking Fantastic Four review, and it's like, I got to put First Steps. I'm thinking selfishly right now. I've got to put First Steps in there, and it's just so unnecessary for the algorithm.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
And
so dumb.
What's also dumb is that there are people that have heard everything I just said, and then they're going to feel the need to just explain why it's titled that, which doesn't help me change my opinion. Because I already know why it's titled First Steps. It just still sucks. Mm-hmm. They called it First Steps because of the space race analogy. But I know. It sucks. I don't want to do this, guys. This is a bad look. I don't want to get defensive about things that haven't even happened to me yet. It's a bad look. I apologize to you. This is not the creator and the podcast host I want to be. It's midnight, Ryan. It's late. Midnight. I don't know. What else? Sidewinder? What else we got?
Sidewinder. Oh, no.
Anyway. Sidewinder.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go.
We got anything else? James Gunn said that he thinks the difference between DCU and MCU is that he has taken more time to plan his universe than the MCU did.
That's
I paraphrase that extremely, but that is essentially the sentiment.
I guess technically he's right. I mean, the MCU was really good at going on the fly. They did a good job of building up and culminating to something, but I do think James Gunn's approach is also just as interesting as the MCU's approach. So, yeah, it's interesting.
It would also be stupid if he didn't. I mean, he has the advantage of going second. So,
learn from the mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's brilliant and it's great, and I can't wait to see what's going on over there.
Me too.
I have a working theory, and this is how I want to end the podcast. Because last week I thought I had some fiery takes that we were going to get comments about, and I didn't. I was a little sad. So here's what I want to piss people off with. I have a theory. I'm working this out, and I'm going to film a video on it soon. Disney Star Wars fans are the new Snyder Cut bros.
Oh, wow. All right.
So here's where I'm at. Here's the gist, and then we'll get out of here. The idea that Snyder Cut bros were so in denial that what they loved didn't actually translate to smart business decisions because it wasn't making money, and their absolute refusal to understand that. This is not a question of whether you should or should not love something. I'm not trying to take anything away, but the expectation that a studio is going to choose to do something you love despite the fact it doesn't make money. Disney Star Wars fans are in that same exact position.
I see where your head's at.
Every Lucasfilm product has failed. Every Star Wars movie that has come out has lowered in box office earnings. They have experimented with every Lucasfilm product under Disney. Star Wars, Indiana Jones was a complete flop. Willow doesn't even exist on their streaming service anymore.
Wow.
Lucasfilm has not won at any of their franchises under Disney. Not one. Okay. So whether you have opinions about toxic fanboys online, whether you think Disney Star Wars has never been better. It doesn't matter. It's not working. And you're going to have to reckon with that. And it's exactly what Snyder Bros had to do. Same thing. So I'm working that out right now.
Wow.
All right, see you guys. No.
Wow. I mean, you are to a degree. I still think the Snyder, there were fun release the Snyder Cut people that I know, and they were, they were hyped about it, and I appreciate that.
Same with
a lot of
Star
those,
Wars?
For sure. But a lot of those people were very toxic. Very toxic.
It's not exactly what I'm going for. That's not
yes, and that's what I'm trying to discern.
Yeah, it's more of an objective truth than it is about whether they should or should not.
They're in denial.
Yes.
They're in denial.
Yeah.
That's what you're
saying.
Because
there's different ways to look at it. There's what you're passionate about, what you love and appreciate, but there's also an objective black and white business acumen, I'm talking about what makes sense on spreadsheets. What makes sense?
Business decisions.
Practicality.
Like if I looked at Deadpool and Wolverine after making $200 million opening weekend and having an A cinema score and 8.3 on IMDb and said, wow, what a failure. What a failure of a movie. This is the worst decision Marvel's ever made. I would be in denial. That's what you're saying. Yeah, I would be in denial at that point. I just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. Anyway.
Who haven't we pissed off, Ryan? We checked all the boxes today.
Doctor Who?
No. Never seen an episode of Doctor Who. They revealed who... That's one thing we really haven't hit on. They revealed who Giancarlo Esposito is playing on the Captain America panel.
Oh, shit. That's fucking funny. Did you hear them? Somebody asked Kevin Feige, so you've got a movie coming out called Thunderbolts. You've got a character named Thunderbolt Ross, but you haven't confirmed that Thunderbolt Ross is in the movie The Thunderbolts. And Kevin Feige said something along the lines of, yep, sometimes in comics you have things that have the same name. And part of me was like, that might be the worst. That's probably the worst thing Kevin Feige has ever said. I was like, you could have named the movie anything.
You could have called it anything.
Or you could have put the character in the movie. I don't know, mate.
Yeah, that would have.
He might have been cheeky because he knows that Harrison Ford is actually in the movie and it's just not been confirmed. That's not really something that needs to be hidden. Just say he's in the movie. But also it's like,
sure,
we put the asterisk there for a reason. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I just thought that
maybe.
I read that. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe how ridiculous. That was the worst thing Kevin Feige's ever said.
There's a reveal. I think there's a reveal around the corner because, I mean, he's Thunderbolt Ross. It's the name of the movie. He's such an integral piece of that storyline. I just don't know how you do it. So there's going to be a time when the first trailer comes out and they're like, boom, Dark Avengers or something like that.
Yeah.
It can't, or he's in the movie. Like it can't be one or the other. He's got to be in the movie or it's got to be something else. It has to be.
Pepsi Zero is better than all right, I'm good.
Are you? I'm not.
More videos coming out this week on Rewatch Ryan. I'm gonna figure out. I'm glad that I bounced it off of you. Now I know exactly where the viewers are gonna go, just based on what you said. So I'm gonna make sure it is argument proof. No, you can speak your mind. That's what makes this country great. It just might piss me the fuck off. No, so I'm going to post a video about that. I'm going to react to my comment section with my Goat Life watch along. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And then I was going to do a video about Harrison Ford bodying that Entertainment Weekly guy.
That would be fun.
Anyway, fun stuff happening on Rewatch Ryan. Link in the description down below. Bye from me, Austin Burke.
What am I doing? This is what's coming out. Trap. We're reviewing Trap this week. We'll have the best and worst of the month. I started a little thing in July talking about some Netflix movies you can find, and I'm going to try to do that on a monthly basis. Some movies we can watch that are streaming and maybe leaving the platform that month. I think that's fun. And then, just soaking in all this Marvel news, man. Maybe going and watching Deadpool again. We'll try.
I'm interested to hear your take post Downey announcement. Are you going to do an Austin Burke Marvel ranking, an updated one?
Yeah, I'm going to try my best. My goal was actually to get that out tomorrow, but that's not going to happen. But I'd like to do some sort of amalgamation of X-Men and Marvel, because there's been a big debate online of, is the MCU better? Is Days of Future Past better than all the movies in the MCU? I'd like to do some kind of combined video and give my input on that. So that's kind of where my head's at. We'll try to get that out by maybe Wednesday.
Okay. I'm going to do one on Watch Diary, strictly MCU films, movies.
Okay.
That have the Marvel Studios logo at the top. So I'm going to do that personally. Cool. And then here in a couple of weeks, when we have a down week, we'll meet our minds together and do something for movie mode. And that'll be something fun people can look forward to. That's all I got. This podcast was weird as hell, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thanks. Hey, everybody, come up with some memes. If you guys can find memes where characters are in a movie, but they're also in other movies, but they're in the same movie. If you guys can find those, shoot them to me at the Burkinator on Twitter. I would love to have them for no reason whatsoever.
For some reason, I'm just anticipating the 28 years later. There's just because
it's Oppenheimer.
Yeah, everyone learned who Cillian Murphy was last year. So now that this is going to be the next thing that he's in, it's all the internet's going to be. It's going to be like, Oppenheimer having to live with what the atomic bomb did to Britain. I don't know. That's just all it's going to be, and it sucks. It sucks.
The atomic bomb brought zombies onto this world.
It's something like that. It sucks. Terrible. All right, do better.